Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Critical Reactions with your host, Bryan. We're going to be finishing up this week of Random Rumble with this pretty cool song called Shine by a band called About Tess. Everything is in lowercase letters, so I'm kind of thinking that's kind of cool, I guess. So I don't know who Tess is or why this band is about them, but we're going to check out this song called Shine. Let's get into it. Oh, yeah. I like what that bass is doing. It's just a little muddy. Very disjointed solo. Yeah, that was cool. Yes, give the drummer a chance to shine. Oh, one of the drummers. Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's a bit disappointing. Um, just because when I felt the song was starting to take off and move in the direction of something I was enjoying more, that is when the song ended, unfortunately. Um, so I have the same complaint, I guess, that I have with this song as I do with the first couple of Polyphia songs. I think that's the band. Um, in that there's a lot of skill put in here, performance wise. There's a lot of really cool riffs and ideas. There's just nothing to sort of tie it all together. And something that would help with a few of these sections is going to be uh, either melody or counterpoint. Sometimes we did have a strong melody, um, and some counterpoint could have helped. Some of these sections did not really have a strong melody line, and it was more about the textural and atmospheric work going in. But the other issue is that a lot of the sections just had very rough transitions into and out of them, and it ended up messing with some of the flow of the storytelling, which is vital as far as I'm concerned if you're not going to have a strong melody going through to tie everything together. Um, and I think that's just a shame because, like I said, there is a lot of really cool things going on in here. I do also like the band composition. Unless I missaw something, there's two drummers, two bassists, and two guitarists, and that's kind of wild. The two drummers thing I think intrigues me the most. Their kits looked different, so I'm sure they have a lot of different timbres that they can include. I kind of only heard one set of drums, so I don't know how close their kits are, how much overlap in unique sounds there are. Overlap in unique sounds. Overlap in sounds and timbres, voices. Um, if they're both using snare and bass and three toms and a few cymbals, there's a lot of overlap in the sounds that they can create. And what's going to be introduced with the two drummers is complexity. You basically have 8 limbs to play on a kit now. So instead of introducing new sounds like what we saw in Wagaki Band, I think that's it. Where they had the drum kit player and then the traditional player who had the taiko drums and all the other traditional Japanese percussion instruments. Where you had these new timbres, these new sounds being introduced against the modern idea of the kit. Your snares and your bass and toms and stuff like that. Here, we can actually include complexity. Instead of being limited to 4 limbs and 4 sounds at a time, we have 8 limbs. We can do 8 sounds at a time. And unfortunately, I just didn't hear that aspect being explored in the song. And that could just be the song. Like I've mentioned many times before, I don't judge a band on a single song. It is one song from one album, and who knows how many albums the bands have put out. So I don't know what happens in other tracks, but for this one, the dual drums did not seem to add anything to this particular song in any effect that I could hear. Um, Even with the bass, I don't remember hearing dual bass lines. I don't remember hearing bass harmonies or uh, double bass lines, two different things. Pretty much every time I checked into the bass, they were doing the same. It sounded like one bass line. So the only instruments that I really heard doing unique things is the guitars. We heard sections where both lines were utilized to create a larger melody, a little bit of back and forth, or maybe some harmonization. We saw some sections where we had a rhythm guitar, solo guitar, or lead guitar sort of relationship. But for the most part, this specific song, it feels like it could have been done without the second bass, without the second drum, unless I'm just completely missing something. Maybe I just didn't tune into those instruments at the right time. There could have been a section where there were two distinct bass lines, or a drum part that could not have been done with just four limbs. And of course, there with the drumming specifically, it could have been sort of a lesser thing. Maybe there were some five and six uh, voice elements that I just didn't pick up on because there's so much going on with the guitar and the bass work as well. There could definitely have been a time when there are five things being hit or six instruments being hit, and I just didn't pick up on it. So I mean that's just sort of one of the things about doing reactions. This is the first time I've heard it, and I have to take in as much as I can on a first time listen. So there's going to be things that get glossed over, that get missed. Just kind of goes with the format. Um, so with those aspects, that sort of didn't work for me. The fact that we had multiple instruments, but I didn't hear multiple parts, or sort of uh, in a different way of saying, a justification for the extra instruments. Um, and then the song composition and sort of tying everything together, all these disparate parts together. Aside from those negative aspects, though, I do enjoy a lot of what's going on here. They have a really good sense of drive. The individual sections are jammy, even if they tend to be a little bit repetitious with not ideas but with feels. It wasn't until the end when we really hit something that was heavy in groove. A lot of the stuff before was not super groovy. It really stuck to landing on the downbeats, and really playing with simple eighth note ideas between the two guitars, or just jamming out on some quarter notes. Except for the opening solo, which I almost forgot about. Not a solo, but the opening sort of proggy bit with the sweeps on it. That was pretty cool. Everything else kind of just ran into some rock territory, and it sounded good, but having all the sections sound very similar, just it didn't feel like we were really going anywhere, unfortunately. And then we hit that groovy part at the end. I'm like, okay, we got some contrast to what we just had, and I'm really digging this. If we go back to some of those straight eighth sections, just kind of landing on the beats, four on the floor kind of stuff, it would have been okay because we would have had the contrast of this hyper groove section. And it wasn't even hyper groovy. It was just more groovy than what we had checked out previously. And unfortunately, we ended the song on that groovy section. So, uh, yeah, I kind of think that the song would have done a lot better if there had been a little bit more experimentation in the individual riffs. That takes me to my next idea, though, is that the entire song is very riff based, and this was something I had an issue with the two Polyphia songs we checked out. There was one of them we checked out that I liked a lot more because it explored melody a little bit, but I think it was the first two songs. There was just a lack of, or sorry, not a lack of. There was a focus on riff, and I get that here too, where they have a really cool section, and there's a drum pattern, there's a bass riff, there's a guitar or two guitar riffs to it, and that's the section. We might start with one instrument as a way to introduce it and to create some variety, and then after uh, one phrase, whether that's 4 bars or 8 bars or whatever, everybody comes in and we do a repetition or two, and then we go to the next riff and we start with one or two instruments that introduce it, and then everybody comes in and they play their riff. And that's the pattern of the song, is we have 8 to 10 riffs and we're going to play them back to back. And it just, like I said, the individual riffs are really cool. I like a lot of the composition that's going on in here. I like the way they create the riffs, but there's just not much storytelling going on with the song as a whole. It is just these single ideas mashed together without any transitions to them, without some sort of overarching idea to tie it all together. And I think that's really the part that brings the song down a bit for me, is that it just kind of does feel like a bunch of ideas mashed together and then called a song without anything, really stringing it all together and reaffirming or creating this identity of a song. There's no overarching concept holding it all together. It would be like if if they put a movie together and it was a very strongly written conversation, so, really good character telling in really good direction, visual direction as far as the conversation goes. It's not just shot, reverse shot stuff. Um, and then there's this really intricately choreographed fight scene, and then this really expensive, car chase, and all these parts alone are like, yeah, that's cool. If I was on YouTube and I wanted to see a piece of this movie and this car chase was awesome, I would go look this up. But as an entire film, to look at it all combined as a work of art, there's nothing really holding it all together, and it's just a cool shot followed by a cool shot followed by a cool shot, or a cool scene followed by a cool scene. And while, like I said, the individual elements are all there, these are all very cool riffs that we hear in the song. I'm just missing the part that ties it all together and tells me it's a full song, rather than just a bunch of ideas smashed together. So I'm not, like I said earlier, I don't dismiss or disregard or put down bands based on a single song. However, this song did bounce off of me. I am interested in About Tess, though, because there is musical instrumental proficiency here. There is some really strong composition here, at least on the individual riff basis. And I am interested in seeing other songs that About Tess has put out that maybe showcase more of their stronger composition writing, especially looking at how they utilize their dual bass and dual drummers. Um, so if anybody knows of another About Tess song that I should check out, put it in the comments. Let me know, because, like I said, I'm interested in seeing another song by them that maybe something they put out a little later might have a little bit more compositional maturity to it, that would showcase some of these elements that I'm missing in this one. All right, those are my thoughts on About Tess's Shine. This is where you come in, though. Drop some comments if you enjoyed it, if you didn't, if I completely missed something. Maybe you listened to it the first time and it bounced off of you, but after a few more listens, you saw something hidden underneath that really tied it together for you, and you want to tell me how wrong I am, and give me a pointer what to look for on a second listen. Drop that stuff down in the comments, and above that is a description box. Some stuff adjacent to the channel, such as Twitter, Patreon, Discord. If you'd like to join any of that, those are the links for you. Under that is a like, a subscribe, and a bell. Pressing those helps out the channel immensely. I will be back tomorrow at 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 9 p.m. UTC. We are sadly done with Random Rumble, but we'll be moving on to some special selections. We have a few more to do. Submissions will be open for that soon. Keep an eye on the channel. I'll have a separate video from the reactions that explains that'll let you guys know that the submissions are open again and how to go about requesting songs for special selections. Until next time, remember to be critical but not cynical of the music you listen to, and have a fantastic morning, afternoon, or evening whenever you choose to watch my videos.